I was trying to remember when I was moderating that panel for Spiritual Frontiers Canada. And that's when I first met you, Irina. So where did the youth?
They're somewhere in the stratosphere or somewhere out in the exosphere.
So I just want to thank you all for joining Lindsay Magic Wells, the young woman that is the wonderful technological expert for this elder who's learning to use technology.
Judith, you have to stop saying I'm an expert.
We're all experts because we know we're learning. And the wise one knows when you keep learning, you have lots more to learn.
Right, exactly.
So listen, I do want to honor that we may have only 40 minutes today. Is that true, or do we have up to 60?
I think we have up to 60, but the Zoom will let us know. So I'll let you know if, yeah. And we have another participant that joined us.
Hello, Sylvia.
Hello, and who is on the other line?
Hello, Judith, it's Sylvia.
Sylvia, I'm glad you could get in.
Can you not see me?
Yep, I can see you now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so I just want to thank you all for coming and to honor that we are sending this wonderful new project of Wutaway Wellness Learning as a wonderful way to honor that we're actually living on the Algonquin Sacred Territory from Chelsea, Quebec, where our special speaker will be sharing her story. And I'm in Gatineau, Quebec, and Lindsay is helping us to facilitate the technology, and she's in Sherbrooke, Quebec. So it's so nice to have the Ontario wonderful Barhaven, member of the Free the Falls group, and a great supporter for Judith over the years for the different projects we keep being called by Spirit to create. So I just want to honor that this is a new project called Uplifting Consciousness. And today we couldn't ask for a better timing. Regina, we were supposed to have you back, I believe it was in October, and the universe had a different idea. And the internet and the whole area was not working. So today we're actually broadcasting on World Celebration UNESCO of the Day of Philosophy. And so today on November the 19th, this couldn't be a better time to have your story told, Regina. Now, Lindsay, could you help me show Regina what I just found this morning? As an elder that has done many projects, I have papers that I must clear. And the universe is always helping us. So I'm going to hold something up for Regina to see. If she can see this, it's a
Oh, my goodness me. Oh, you've been Sherlock Holmes, have you?
I tell you, it's not me, it's divine order. Now, this is an article that really sums up why this beautiful, beautiful woman entered my life way back in, I think it might have been the mid-90s. And this is an article by Catherine Joyce from In the Hills, Counselor Finds Calling in Childhood Experience. So I would really love to honor this sacred space as we listen to the story of this beautiful elder and how her journey began at an early age. And maybe we'll start that as our starting point and weave through what was so significant to you that was a life-changing event in your childhood, Regina, that brought you to be who you are today. Could you share a little bit as our starting point for that today?
Oh my. Oh my. All right. It's like placing the universe in a nutshell, isn't it? Okay. So, as many of you, as many in the world have done as well or continue to do, we always seem to walk in two different worlds, if not more dimensions than the two worlds. When I was very, very small, I got lost in the forest. I was living in the forest in the Netherlands. I was very small. and I got lost. And what had happened was that in the cornfields or the wheat fields behind our place, there was a very small silvery craft. And I was invited up. It was not an abduction. It was simply, I remember recalling seeing this beautiful, small, silvery like craft, and it seemed to have lovely engravings on it. Anyway, I was transported, brought up there with much love and gentleness, and they placed me on this beautiful, it was a bed that was warms to your body, and it takes the contours of your body. And I know it sounds odd, but I could see myself there, but I could also see outside of myself. And underneath in the spine area was this beautiful blue light that came up from the bottom of the spine to the top of my head. And this lovely lady moved towards me, loving with this beautiful red hair, and smiled at me, and it was pure love. The next event that I recall was that I was sitting on a stone out of the forest, were fields and then forest and then the home. And I was sitting on a stone, and this beautiful lady was bending down so that she was eye level. I was quite small, eye level, had her hands on my shoulders and said, you don't know what happened to you right now, but you will know later on in life when you get older. I couldn't quite understand what the meaning, because she said something like, we had to change, not the soul, we had to change the orientation or something, but it wasn't moving the soul out or anything. It was just that feeling, an understanding that I had things to accomplish that I would understand later on in life. And so the best thing I could do, being a rational individual, is that I just suppressed everything for about 50 years. Anyway, but as you well know, nothing can be suppressed in the universe. And so I left that aside. And the next experience, I have had many, but I'll just speak of two. The next experience happened in 1980. I had completely suppressed the experiences. I could suppressed everything that was from other worlds. I couldn't handle it. I didn't believe in God. It was the black hole. Mm-hmm. And then in June of 1980, as I was doing the dishes, I actually do the dishes once every 10 years. No, I'm just joking. But I was doing the dishes, and if you can imagine, the sink wasn't here, and beside me was like a cubby hole where there was a counter and then cupboards, so there was just a little space for me. And of course, I'm not meditating, I'm not praying, I don't believe in God. I was very, very interested in the mind, however, in parapsychology, in telepathy, but please don't talk about spirituality and God. Then we were good. And so here I am doing the dishes, and suddenly beside me physically is a man. And my first speaking in my brain was, you can't be here. There are cupboards and a counter. And the man placed his hand physically on my back a bit to the right. And I fell into this love and ecstasy that just blew me away, that he disappeared. And of course, I tried to suppress all of this, since I had, in those days, I used to say I have 14 PhDs in suppression, Resistance is futile, as they say. However, for years after that, I could close my eyes and I would see the face of this person. I hadn't a clue who this person was. It was a male. And he was dressed into a monk clothing of some sort. But that's when the opening started. That's when I started searching and wondering what's going. The opening started. And it was about 15 years later that someone, by pure coincidence, presented me a book by a person called Padre Pio. I'd never heard of this man, Padre Pio. And I looked inside the book, and I And I said, if ever in that book I see the photo of the face I've been carrying for about 15 years, I don't think I'll probably lose it. And sure enough, you know, you remember these momentous moments in life, where you were, what time it was, and so forth. I opened the book, and one of the photos was exactly the photo of the man that had visited me 15 years previously. And that's how it started. Just interesting note is that I developed skin cancer in the spots where he touched me. Now, this is not. This is just the surface. You know, it's not dangerous. They just cut it out when you get sunburns, right? And I realized then it wasn't Padre Pio that had started that. It was my resistance. And so that was all cleared up and off we went. That's another story. But anyway, it's all healed. And that was the beginning of finding the divine within, of opening up to other realities, of realizing that my linear brain is very good for third, fourth dimensional world, but there is so much more. There you have it.
So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's a good starting point for a lot of people around the whole theme of why we're having spiritual leaders share their stories. Because as we hear your story and we hear your voice, we hear our own stories and our own voices. And for so long, we've lived in a repressed state of consciousness. So the beautiful work you do to awaken the mind and the heart. I hear a little person that already is wide awake. And so we have the little children, when they come, we're fully wide awake. And it doesn't take long for us to forget who we are on a spiritual level. So Lindsay, your beautiful little child is a reminder to us that we're spiritual beings and we're here to emanate this love that we all are, but we've got distracted in life and drawn away from who we really are, and we live more in fear. So Regina, when we look at your story and your childhood experience, you had many significant experiences leading up to the point that you actually, I see in the article, one of the things that I think that was connecting us is we have a similar journey and life experiences of events. And you were actually blessed to also live as part of your experiences working with the Inuit up in northern Quebec, and working for the Department of Foreign Affairs and specializing in languages and the University of getting languages and being able to get degrees in that. But your journey took you right into the University of Life, and the events and experiences that you've been doing to support the awakening of so many people drawn to your light, your love, your energy. Tell us a little bit about your story as it relates to, say, from 1991 and on, because now we're in 2020, and something led you on that constant progression to discover the unique talents and gifts of service that you have in your heart, why you were here, and what was your calling. Could you share a little bit of that?
Yes, I think the word calling is really, really important. I think it's important for everybody, because what I'm beginning to sense, and that's only my perspective, and when I speak for myself as well, is that more and more we're beginning to see people who are awakening, who are lighting up. And I think the word calling is going to echo more and more into people's minds and hearts, because you know, everybody, everything, every object, every breath is all connected. There is no separation. That the energy that you use to speak is the energy that grows the tree in the garden, that gets the grasshopper to hop. And that makes the stars going around and around, and our galaxies going around, and so forth. And I think that is so very, very important. That all the total number of universes is just one. and that we are being given this opportunity. I'm not a Pollyanna. I quite understand all the difficulties and the challenges, but we have this opportunity to go deep, deep and quiet inside, to let go of the external, to go inside and say, oh, I can feel that, I can touch that, I remember that joy, because it's all memory of the soul. And from that feeling of quiet and saying, oh, this is marvelous, then the sense of calling comes. And it doesn't really matter if the calling means that you're going to do the Olympics or you're going to sit and pray for someone. It's not a question of how big, how large. It is a question of sincerity. So I say that to you, but I had a lot of learning. And I'm also listening to myself for myself. But I think one of the greatest movements from within is that of creativity. Because creativity comes from intuition, and intuition is the language of soul. And we know very well when we are completely aligned. When we are completely aligned with the divine within, of which we are all a part. We know that. We know exactly when we tiptoe out of it and when we tiptoe back into it, you know? And so
well, that's why I often say that the joke is on us, because the universe is working within us to draw us intuitively to the article that I really needed to read 20 minutes before I turned the computer on.
But so you see, that's so interesting, because, you know, it's a bit like think that consciousness is a thread, okay? When we begin to awaken, and I speak of myself, we don't even, just before we awaken, we don't know there's a thread there. We think it's around our tongue, or we spit it out, or we go, like a hair, you know? And then we start thinking, why am I doing that? Maybe there's something there. Maybe there's a reason why I'm on the earth. And that's the clincher. That's the one that starts getting this thread that comes out from your heart, right? What am I doing upon the earth? Oh, that's a big one. The door goes open, right? And then you can either go clang, forget it, I'm going home somewhere else, or I'm going, But the moment you've asked the question, well, the thread has started. It's no longer, it's beginning to feel a thread coming from the heart. And that thread seems to be so tiny and thin. And you're going, what? What's all this about? And then the more we go into that thread, think, gee, this is really interesting. The connection to the article on the newspaper, the connection to others. Gee, I was just thinking about, my goodness, you know, that book you just, oh, wow. And the more we become not attached to the thread, the more we become filled with wonderment with a thread, then the thread gets wider. And it gets wider and it gets wider. And the wider the thread, the more we are connected, and the more we have the intuition, and the more the mind works with intuition. And there we have a big bouquet, all these bows that come out from a single thread that connects us all, you know?
And mind then becomes the builder. I often wondered what the ancient mystics were talking about, the mind becoming the builder. And it's about that creativity, that creation of the new that's emerging in these times.
I often think of one of the great teachers that said, it is the soul that is over mind, and it is the mind that is over body.
All interconnected.
But it starts, if there's a starting point. We in our human mind have the idea that there's a beginning and an end. You know, we think, well, there must be a big bang because something started something somewhere, but that's perhaps not true. Perhaps it's just the way we can have a look at dimensions, or, you know, at least the 3-4 dimensions that we're in. But if it really is soul, and I think that's when we connect for one instant with the soul, that everything comes up
to the core essence. And I think the core essence is really what we're talking about here. The indigenous people talk a lot about the journey of finding out, why am I here? Sometimes the most important thing is the question. What is my purpose? Why am I here? In the darkest time of the soul, when we're in the depth of our despair, that's when we go deeper inside to connect to that energy that's yearning to express itself. And so my sense is, in these emerging times of the huge polarity on the planet, we can see very clearly that we are bigger than what we think ourselves to be, because we're beginning to remember now who we are as spiritual beings. And you said a while ago, it wasn't okay to use the word spirituality or spirit. Now in the 21st century, we're beginning to understand there's a new language that's emanating all over the planet now. And there's an urgent need within our core to express our creativity and our creative ways of creating the new that's emerging from the old. Now, you had a significant moment, again, in your journey of constantly, when you share your story, waking others to see we have a story too of significant moments when all of a sudden the universe said, open thy mind, open thy heart. The soul yearns to express a bigger picture, a language to help others connect to the higher dimension of reality that we would never understand intellectually. But we must get deep within the core of who we are to begin to emerge, to become the light and the love that the Christ was talking about.
That is exactly it. And I really like your word merging, because we, in our dimension here, in the third or fourth, if you call time the fourth dimension, we have the idea that of things going up or things going in a linear fashion. But really what's happening is that we are unfolding. We are unfolding and we are merging, as you were saying so rightly. We are unfolding that which is within, as you mentioned. There is nothing truly without. Everything that was out is simply idea, is thought, is projection. Everything comes within. And that is why this time, as you were saying, is so extremely, it is essential that we begin to have the time, we have the inclination, and also we are being, how shall I say this, gently pushed, just gently pushed. We have our free will, and you will laugh at this because we have free will up to a certain point. And then we say, oh, no, take the rest, it's okay, I don't need my free will anymore. The moment you're in that thread of light, you know, you just, oh, take me. Forget the free will. I don't need it anymore. Yeah? Because that's when your duality disappears. But the duality is necessary until that point.
Yeah, that's when we start to get in the canoe you're writing about, and we go with the flow. We become one with the oneness of all that is, and we're out of that fear and ego stuff. We're merging with a divine energy that seeks to express through us. And so that leads us to doing a time check from Lindsay, because we don't want to forget that at some point in your journey, your mind opened, your heart opened, and the universe was able to express through you messages that feed Judith Matheson once a month. And that becomes, and my soul needs spiritual food. And I think everyone's soul needs to be fed at a spiritual level. So how,
you know what, Judith? You are the, how can I put this? You are the example of generosity of spirit.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right back at you.
That's beautiful. I actually have a question for Regina, right? You said Regina? It's
yes.
Like
yeah, perfect.
Okay. It's really beautiful the way you're speaking. It's really lyrical. In fact, my little one was listening earlier, and she was listening as if you were telling a story, you know. So it's like it shows that it was captivating. But I was wondering, what do we do? You're talking and it's so, it just resounds like so much. It's so truthful to me what you're saying. How do we deal with obstacles that present themselves to us? You know, like obstacles of these illusions of everyday life, or people who maybe wish us harm because they're stuck in ignorance, political obstacles, anything. Like, it's just so, there's such a duality for me in my everyday life sometimes. And then remembering this truth, how do you, yeah, anyway.
It's an excellent question. It's an excellent question, and it's an excellent question for me to, as a reminder as well, is that we are both divine and we are human.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point where we need to choose. If I choose the divine, I do not eliminate the human. I simply place the divine over and within it. So if I have this choice or this choice, hopefully I will make the choice that vibrates the closest and the purest from inside my own truth soul. Mm. So let's say this is the human and this is the divine. There comes a point where you say, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to pull this one, the divine, away and live here? Or am I going to take the divine and transmute the human? Mm. Now, this sounds all fine for philosophy, but how does it work in the everyday life? Right. So we come back to the idea of foundation. Mm-hmm. What is the foundation of our life? The foundation of all life is love. Everything vibrates and is brought into the material world is love. Love is even before vibration. Love is that which creates the light, and that light creates objects. But we'll just keep it like that. So every moment that you are centered in love, you cannot not be in your soul, because that is the language of soul. Beautiful. Now, secondly, or thirdly, or wherever we are in mathematics here, the next is, well, how do I hold on to it? How do I hold on to this feeling of love when the trees in front of me are being cut down? I'm just, because I live in the forest and they are cutting down trees. Yep. So we all know this. This is just common sense. We have to be reminded every moment that we live, that we are love, and we vibrate love, we radiate love, and we strengthen that love. And that pure love is love of the divine, of the creator, the giver of light, God, whatever word you wish to use. So your question is an excellent one. And it comes down to the choice. When you sit in the morning, during the day, in the evening, when you sleep, what do you wish to do? You wish to strengthen that foundation, and it will strengthen. And when you take little exercises, like your child, well, it's not really an exercise, but or events that happen to you, or objects that, for example, let's say that you're standing outside and you see this is one of the exercises that the guides gave me. You look around and you see something that really is quite ugly. Sorry, but I'm using that word. I remember, anyway, it doesn't matter what my story is. And you say, man, that is so ugly, It's a judgment call. Of course, it's a judgment call. And so I remember that happened to me, and the voice inside just said, don't leave that object until you see something beautiful in it. So it took me about 15 minutes to find one. It was architecture, and it was one little corner that I thought, gee, that's quite nice. Out of the whole building, there was one corner. And they said, concentrate on that, and the feeling of love and wonderment and beauty of that corner will be much greater than your idea that all the rest is ugly. And it was a good teaching, so that every person we meet, and I'm talking about myself because I'm learning this too, every person we meet, every object, every movement within it can be transformed. So all we need to do is become very vigilant of where we are in our essence, and to say, well, I have a choice. I can look at this building and say it's super ugly, or I can say it's not, it's different. And there's at one point I really like, and I'm going to focus on that. And not only intellectually focus, but to feel it in my heart. And then finally, that little piece took over the entire building. And also, please don't forget, and I speak again to myself, if we cannot change something, we can pray, we can radiate love. And there are times when we need to physically remove ourselves.
Yeah.
But above all else, please remember, and I say this to myself, remember the love that you have for yourself. Never forget.
And the other thing that I would note in that beautiful question leading to such a wonderful learning for all of us, because we're all mirrors of each other. And
Yes,
what
sir.
I see in another, which I will judge because I'm human. And by the way, being human is very hard. Living in these times is not an easy task, to awaken to the goodness in our own hearts so that we can get to that place of consciousness, to see that whatever I'm seeing in another being, they're simply mirroring something I need to know about myself.
Yes.
That also helps me to begin to live in a less judgmental manner, and begin to see that in as much as I see this, there's also the opposite polarity. So everybody's got pain, but they also have compassion. And I feel this culture has to get in this awakening time of honoring that as much pain as Judith has, she also has compassion, but she has to learn to tap into that compassion to be able to be more compassionate with Judith. Because if I can't do it for Judith, I cannot be present to others at all in the same way. So I really believe this time of awakening is about the young people asking these beautiful questions, and the elders like yourself and myself who have been on the path of awakening for many years, to begin to be honored and acknowledged that we also had events and experiences when we were younger where we were suppressing what we could not feel because we're taught not to acknowledge pain. We run away from the pain. And then the pain becomes issues of imbalance. So the soul's calling is deeper than that, to go deeper into the core of who we are as energy. Your transmissions that you do on a monthly basis, can you talk a little bit about how those transmissions started? Because a lot of young people are seeking and searching outside the box with the traditional thing called religion, and yet their souls are yearning because they're already wide awake, but they want to have others supporting their awakening because they already have a certain degree of knowledge that's taken many of us, we elders, years to break our programming. So is there something?
I think,
yeah, something you can say about?
Yes, I think it's very wise. I think there is quite a vast difference between knowledge and wisdom, and we all know that we can get knowledge anywhere. It's the wisdom that we're moving into now, and that every single person, no matter how old or how young, or age is just an idea anyway. It's not so much the knowledge. Knowledge is important, but it's the wisdom of that. And I go back again to this whole truth that if we could go inside, we will tap into that wisdom because it's the same language as intuition. It's all the language of soul. I think also that I'd like to, you brought up in my mind, Judith, the word wonderment. And it's such an important word. And it's it's a word that brings back the magic. Somebody was using magic and beauty. This sense of wonderment that we have, and which is coming back. If all what people need to do is to go quiet, be still and know that I am God. Don't worry about the names. Go inside and say, oh, this is wonderful. Review the day. Just sit quietly and say, oh, that was magnificent what I did today. What, that's great. I learned this and maybe I can do this better another time, because the universe is so intelligent that it will present you, or I'll speak of myself, it will present me with something and I'll do it, but it wasn't all that great what I did. And the universe will say, well, maybe we can practice this one again. And then a week later, you get the same thing comes to you and you go, oh, I remember now. Okay, I can do this one a little bit differently. Hello.
Finding tuning the process of what Sister Rosemary calls spiritualization. If we keep having the event happening in a recurring way, we get fine-tuned to do the learning. And the universe just hasn't got there yet. We'll give her another experience.
That's right. The other thing that I sometimes go to a silent retreat place called Still Point in Ontario. It's wonderful. And it's about spiritual soaking. I'm thinking, oh, you just sit there, you open up and you do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. There's nothing proactive. There's nothing you're trying to do. You just go into spiritual soaking. I love that term.
And you can actually feel the energy emanating. It's like having a good shower from the inside out. So in reading from this wonderful way of stillness, I love that Still Point place. It's a wonderful center. Same with Galilee. So many beautiful places to be in nature and in that space of silence. And so Dietrich Bonhoeffer, German theology, said many years ago after World War II, a society that begins to lose the capacity to listen to each other loses the capacity to hear God. Yes. And so when we lose relationship with who we are deep inside our own core, we also lose our capacity to have deeper conversations and relationships with each other, the one universal human family. And so the reason we're bringing these programs forth is we want to awaken those listeners to begin to hear through your voice and my voice and Lindsay's voice, this energy that's seeking to manifest and be heard, because it's who we are. It's this wonderful energy that seeks to remind us that there's a greater picture unfolding than the one that we're coming from. It's a new world emerging. So a lot of the wonderful work you're doing is on your website that people can go to. And it's also the meditations you offer on a monthly basis. And a lot of your background has been holding space for circle teachings on spirituality, where people come together like Indigenous people to honor that in a circle, everyone is equal and one, and everyone's voice is so important. So in these times, it's so important to find our voices. But to do that, we must first go within to find who we are that we may have forgotten. So can you speak a little bit around the significance of the work that you're doing and literally how it's related to this powerful book for people to be able to have time for reflection and to open a book and just be in that stillness point in nature or in your home, to quiet that mind and open the heart and begin to restore relationship with who we are.
Yes, I think that's a very important point. is relationships. What are our relationships with each other? What are the relationships we have with our inner self? What are the relationships we have with the outer world and with nature and with science and with technology? It's extremely important. I've often thought, you know, if we look at our civilizations, I think I'm going off subject here, but you know, if we look at our ancient civilizations of the Greeks and the Egyptians and so forth, we find civilizations that crumble, that have all the art and they have all the mathematics and architecture and astrology and all of that, and they crumble and pieces come down to us. In this time, what I see, and it's just my perspective, is that there's an underpinning, you know, instead of a civilization falling away, we seem to have an underpinning here of what you are speaking about, Judith. We have the underpinnings of the so-called new world or emerging world that is already there. And as this world begins to crumble, it's going to be down this way and the other world is coming up. So there's this movement of the underpinnings of a foundation, as we talked about earlier, that's already there. So it makes me very spiritually excited to see, when you were speaking, that we are being awakened, our souls are awakening us, and we are using our free will to go there. It is we who decide, yes, I'm going to take that thread and make it a highway of light. So being in the quiet, doing some creative exercise or something that say, that moves exactly from my soul. I often go into the bush. I'm fortunate enough to live in nature. This morning before this interview, I went into the bush and just sat on a stone in the middle of nowhere and just feel the quiet. When you meditate at night, even the word meditation might scare people away, but it's just feeling the breath, placing the consciousness in the third eye, opening up, feeling sacredness.
I like that language, feeling sacredness. And the language of the soul is the sacredness of life. Every newborn child reminds us, why are we attracted to newborn, any species? Because they're emanating something we've forgotten we are. We are as little children. We have these beautiful souls. And the more we awaken to who we really are, as these beautiful souls, here to connect with each other and interconnect and bring forth that emergence, the foundation is already set. And the new is emerging. And that kind of brings us to what you were talking about a moment ago, is the next age mission. That's the name of your website. Yes. We're in an age of mission. We're lighting the fires of service in each other's souls. That's what uplifting consciousness is. So these are powerful times to be alive.
Sorry to interrupt. We have 15 minutes left technically, and I'm not sure if Sylvia or Nieves, they wanted to also share their voice. I just wanted to let people know we have 15 minutes left.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, because I think we really want to honor that. If the other two have quick questions, it would be really wise. And I think from my perspective, I would love to have Regina on more than once, because there's such a richness to the conversation. And I really believe that sometimes we just simply have to honor that there's so much attention span for the listeners as well. So Nieves and Sylvia, I just want to honor that your presence. And sometimes the most important thing is space holders that are the listeners. But you may have short questions you might have Regina look at, and then we'll do a sum up, and we'll be sure we leave within the next 15 minutes.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. 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 Thank you.
So do you have any questions you'd like to ask related to this conversation, either one of you?
I had a question, but Lindsay asked it, so that was wonderful. Yeah, so that's fabulous. And then I couldn't think of any, well, I have a million questions, but that one was the one that was in my mind. So I am very happy that you answered that and you asked that. But it's a great pleasure to have you, Regina, with us, because it's wonderful to listen to you, to listen to Judith, to just be here, be present, and it's amazing.
Mm. And I want to thank Nieves for being here. She is a holistic nutritionist living in Washington, D.C. And so she's living on the sacred land of Indigenous North American peoples in the flow of energy that connects us, as Regina was saying a moment ago. Science, spirituality, and technology are bringing us together as one now from all over the world. And I want to honor Amanda Masterson, who helped create the OWL website. And she's living in France, and she's now in the flow of creating new wonderful ways of helping the world to come together now. So thank you so much, Nieves, for being here and for supporting Project OWL and for all the work you do to help other beings get more whole so we can be well physically and be living in the world in a wonderful way of bringing forth light and love. Sylvia, you're also here, and I want to honor and thank you for being here again. Would you like to ask a question today, Sylvia? You're a young mother living through these challenging times of COVID, and finding that balance we're all seeking to be is a constant everyday journey. So do you have any questions as a young mom?
Well, I will say that delighted for the question that was just received. I think all of us can benefit from that. Yeah, definitely. Right now, Angelita is at home and she is a free learner. So this weekend, we're actually doing a 2-day conference called the Child Friendly Community Conference. So I guess just that whole letting go is really maybe my question of the system that's in place for schooling versus the release of knowing that my child is going to be all right, not following that programming, if you will. So I don't know if you can just maybe just give some insights in terms of the future of the children moving forward. Regina, I don't know if I can maybe just address
it.
I
just want to see if I can narrow that down. That's a large subject, isn't it?
I'm hoping listening to this 2-day conference, I mean, people can pick and choose. It's a free Zoom event, but hopefully we'll get some more insights on just the letting go and knowing that there's a new tomorrow for a happier future for children.
Yes, I think that children are very aware that children need guidance, that children need security. They need, of course, as you are doing already, you are certainly helping them encouragement, because that's one of your great gifts that you have, is to encourage, to listen, and so forth. I think the children need to have themselves expressed, whether it's through speaking, through music, through drawing, or through writing. That's very, very, very important. But that they also have guidelines, that they're clear with the parents of what the parents are saying, that there's no contradiction, because these children, and even the adults that we are when we were children, we were not born in the box. Judith wasn't born. Excuse me to say this publicly, but you weren't born in the box. I wasn't born in the box. We tried to fit into the box, didn't work. But so that's important, that the children have that balance between security, knowing, understanding, and having that freedom. It's a dance, but most of all, as we've mentioned earlier, it is to do with love. Mm-hmm. Many children have tremendous, tremendous gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Can I put this quickly on the time that we have? There's a certain igniting of cells in the body and in consciousness that are trilling, that are opening up. And that is one of the reasons why we're seeing these prodigies why we're getting people of all ages suddenly having these tremendous talents. It's not so much to do with age. We'll still have the idea of linear thinking, which is fine because we have that too. But we're beginning to see that people of all ages, of sexual orientation, it doesn't matter, are beginning to be trilled. I don't know how else to put it. You've got a let's say you've got a molecule like this, and there's something coming in going like that. Or if you think of light that's in every cell or every subatomic particle, it's being tickled. Let's put it that way. And that tickling goes directly to the soul. And the soul is saying, oh, let's see how we can express God. Let's see how we can do that.
Beautiful.
We can speak for a long time on that subject.
That's a beautiful subject to follow up with, because this is the era where the Dalai Lama is talking about. It's time for relationship to go back, education-wise, to be in the circle of the children having conversation with their parents, to help the children help us to remember who we are. They already know who they are. We've forgotten. And so sometimes we have to go back to education being not from the linear, from the neck up, but to the conversations of the heart and soul, as the parents and the children articulate together, this energy begins to come forth, and the children are being true to themselves. They're true to who they are.
Yes, I think there's perhaps one thing I would say, and that is that the children, just to ensure that the children grow harmoniously within themselves. And that includes the social.
Yeah.
So that they understand that as well. But that could be another topic at some other point.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when you're different and you're outside the box, the judgment issue is big for the children. So we need to support their emotional, spiritual, psychological health in these times of change. And that's where I think the modern parents like Sylvia and Nieves and Lindsay, they're out of the box parents. These children are very lucky to have parents that have that consciousness. But how do we help our culture and our society see how significant it is to get back to having meals together and take this time out as a wonderful gift from the universe to remember relationship, family, motherhood, grandmotherhood, fatherhood. Relationship is at the core of who we are as spiritual beings. So on that note, you have a beautiful, beautiful voice that emanates all over the planet. You're connected to souls everywhere. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart that you have blessed us this morning with your voice and your spirit and your love. And I know you have something to read and something to share around how to order that book of yours that is magnificent. And I'll tell you, Upon Nature's Path, I bought it for several friends that I hope are able to listen today. And to me, it's a real grace-filled experience to share the joy of creative beings like yourself through art form and writing, to inspire others to write their own stories. They all have a story. So let's start writing our stories and inspire ourselves. So could you like to bless us as we come to this close? And I thank everyone for coming together today. I want to invite you to do that reading, that you a sample of the messages that people can actually go to your website for on a monthly basis and tap into your meditations. So give us some information, and then we'll close with your beautiful reading and messages from Spirit.
Right. So my website is nextagemission.com. One word, nextagemission.com. There you will read the spiritual messages on a monthly basis. And I also tape with my voice 10-minute meditation exercises. They are there as well. Also, I've produced 2 CDs, one CD with my voice of meditations accompanied by my music, because I compose music quite a bit. And the second one is called To the Morning Star, and it is also of beautiful meditative music. Those can be downloaded free of charge on nextagemission.com. The book is called, it's a small book, a booklet. It's called Upon Nature's Path. And I illustrated it as well. They are short poetic prose, and with an illustration on each side. So this is the one called The Flower. I will read that to you. I present to you this perfect flower. I do not know where it comes from. I found it fallen, still fresh, with dew in the tall grasses, vibrant. I give it to you, for your heart has felt little joy this last long while. Our worlds can fill up so quickly with illness and disappointment. We seem to tumble faster and faster and find little time for the stilling of the mind. Look at the flower. It stops all time. It exudes a creative energy of completeness. It does not question. It simply exists. And in this surrender, it becomes total magnificence. A budding flower is within us all. Give it space and light, and it will bloom. And when it comes forth, thrilling in splendor, present it to another soul whose life has yet to open to its power.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Beautiful. Love it.
Ernie Tanis, who I used to do radio programs with, I used to use a quote. I don't know who the person said this, but your poem, Regina, reminds me of Ernie saying so many times that all cultures of the world in the age of awakening are meant to become flowers in one bouquet of one universal human family. And that speaks to me of these powerful times of truly honoring and acknowledging the sacred in each other. And in us all is this new cosmology yearning to birth through all of us as one in the light. So thank you so much for the love and the goodness emanating from your hearts today. Take it forth and share it with a friend. We may not be able to hug, but we can sit and send loving energy to those we care for. And on that note, we look forward to seeing you on the third Thursday of each month. And we're going to have 2 other spiritual leaders coming to share who they are. And I would love for Regina to come back and see us again in the new year 2021. And let us know what your schedule looks like, Regina, because I think we need to have a follow-up conversation. What do you folks think?
That would be great. Yes.
Yes. That would be really, really good. Looking forward to that. Yes.
Wonderful. So surrounding you all with love, and Regina, can we just see you one more time as we say bon voyage, and may your life of tranquility emanate to all of us in the days and months and years ahead as our souls have been fed through your spirit today. Deep miigwech, merci, and you.
And thank you, all of you. And thank you, Judith, for bringing this all together and sharing your love and beauty also. Thanks all for being here. Thanks so much, Regina.
Are we able to share this message? Is it recorded?
It's being recorded. Yeah, so we'll be able to view it once it's up on the website or on Zoom or something. On Facebook, we can also share it. So we'll let you know by email.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hopefully see you all next time.
Bye-bye.
Many blessings.
Take care. Blessings.
Talk soon, Judith.
Right on, Lindsay. Thanks a lot. Big hugs to that little daughter.
Thank you. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye.